All right. So make sure if you all want to look at the comments, you have to I believe have to hit the comments and push it out so you can see it while we're chatting. I'll try to highlight some things.
Yeah, I
So if
can't
you
see
have
it,
any
so I'm not
interest,
even gonna try to figure it out.
yeah, it's not that deep. But anyways, so
If anyone
with
says
talking
hi,
about the
just
national with talking about the National League Central though, have you all been following it all the spring training for your respective teams and what's your thoughts? Kind of like, I mean, we're probably about a week and a half away from opening day. So what are your thoughts on right now?
well, I'm expecting us to come in last place again. But I have to admit, I have not gone to a game in a couple years, only for the fact I just don't want to give money to our owner. And I know Bob
Mm,
Lewis gets on here and goes, "Well, you can only spend so much," and I get that. And Tony, your team's a perfect example. You're in a small market, and the Brewers get like,
Well,
we get prospects to give them away every 4 years, like John
yeah,
Mancini
John
did for
Mangini was saying that the other week. He was
But
ranting about it.
it's like Jameson Tyon was a big prospect. He's now on the Yankees. Garrett Cole was a big prospect on the Yankees. Josh Bell's on the Nationals now. I mean, I saw there was a when Tyon got traded. I was looking at I don't know what it was, some forum, and they were like, "Congratulations, you finally made the major leagues." Like he got out of our minor league team here. Like,
Got off the
yeah, it was like
Yeah,
for
like
him,
over under
yeah,
one season. How
I
long
get
is
that.
like Cabrian Hayes gonna be on
That's
the
it.
fire?
But where I was saying before, just because of COVID and something to do. I mean, we have a beautiful ballpark. I don't know if you guys have ever been to it.
It is. I mean, I've never been there live, but the view's
Yeah,
spectacular.
it's awesome. You
yeah.
can park downtown, walk across the. It's called the Clemente Bridge. They close it down during games, so cars can't drive over. You walk over to the game. So I most likely will go just because, like everyone else, I'm tired of being stuck and doing nothing. But and even when I was going, I wouldn't buy the tickets directly from the Pirates.
Yeah, get them
But
from a scalper or something.
yeah,
He
but
Right.
paid the
Yeah.
Pirates, not
they're
you.
not expensive here. But it's just like, come on, man, spend a little bit of money. Like,
Yeah.
we're a historic team. We've been here since the early 1900s, and we're a joke now. And I even tried. My father was a huge Red Sox fan. I'm like, well, maybe I don't have an American League team, so I'll start rooting for them. And you can't force it. You either really like them or you don't. It wasn't the same. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't really like these guys. So,
I mean,
so honestly,
I
I've
think
not
we
been following it that closely. I couldn't even tell you 10 guys on the team this year.
yeah, I think we all probably, I mean, a lot of us, I think all three of us can speak to how there's a lot of desert years, in some cases decades, where your team just doesn't do anything, and everybody on a March 31st or April 1st is all in first place. We hear it every year. It's a brand new year, blah blah blah. But for a lot of us over the years, it doesn't matter if it's day one or day 161. They're going to be in the middle of the pack, if not in the back of the pack every time, and it is very frustrating because like where you're saying, for the Pirates, it just haven't been relevant forever.
Dude,
So
we
you
went
kind of get
20
them
straight years without a winning season. 20
right.
years. It's like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, but to me, and I agree with that, and I know how frustrating that can be because again, being a Reds fan, I see it too. But to me, there's even a part of it that as a Reds fan, they get your hopes up.
Right.
So it's almost like a different kind of frustration because they do make some big splashes every once in a while. They'll grab a couple pretty good names and players. A lot of times they might be like on the downturn, or they've coming off bad seasons, and so you're hoping you're catching lightning in a bottle kind of thing. But they kind of give you this false hope, and then it usually comes crashing down. So the reality of it is, it doesn't matter if the Pirates are in fifth place and the Reds are in third place. You're still not going to go to the dance.
Right.
So it's still the same outcome, which sucks because you can't get excited. And I tell the story a lot of times. I don't know. I'm sure maybe you all have seen this, but I think that I don't know how the Brewers fans are. And I know the Pirates fans are pretty passionate, but the Reds fans, I feel like they're like fair weather fans until their teams are winning. Then they care. And a good example was in all those years, like when Griffey was towards the end of his career, and then there was like they had Adam Dunn and Austin Kearns, and they had a couple kind of, names that you recognize. I would go to their games and the Cubs would be playing, and there'd be more Cubs fans than there would be Reds fans at their stadium. And that's so frustrating because, those 40,000 seats or whatever, and like 28,000 as Cubs fans or whatever.
I've seen
it's like
that
ridiculous.
here for Phillies games when the Phillies were really good. We're about a 5-hour drive and only an hour flight from each other, and there was a ton of Phillies fans in our stadium. Although on the reverse side, our Steelers travel everywhere. You look at them at away games, and it's like, there's Steeler bars all over the country. So
right, yeah. There's one about 20 minutes from my house actually.
Really?
Like a few times over, and that's where I go and watch Steelers games. Back in the olden days when you could go to a bar.
Right.
so we'll see.
What about you said you're a Yankees fan, and I see like Pepino and G's Mikey and Blink. Oh my God, sorry, Jesse, I just screwed up your name on here, but you know what I'm talking about, Jesse.
Blue 77.
Yeah, thank you. And they're like, oh, we lost this player. I'm like, really? Like, we don't even sniff those guys. They're like, I don't want to hear your poor me being a Dodgers, Red Sox, Yankees, whoever. I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah. It definitely is frustrating when you have just year after year of just disappointment and frustration, and then you see other teams like the Yankees or like the Red Sox or the Padres that just seem to be stacked right now. Yeah. So it definitely is tough. So what about you, Tony? I know here's a question from Steve. And then what's your thoughts about the Brewers in general, what you've seen so far?
Sure. Okay, so Vintage Card Steve's question, what did Ryan Braun do? Did he retire? I think where he's at right now is like he's unofficially retired. I think he's holding out hope that the Brewers might want him like during the season or something. He's like not saying the R word, but like I don't think anybody but the Brewers no one's gonna pick him up otherwise, and I think he'd only play for two teams anyway, the Brewers or the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are like his hometown team or the Brewers. But I remember back when he was playing, he had a no trade clause, and it was the only team he would go to is the Dodgers. So if not, so I think he's just unofficially retired. In terms of like where the Brewers are at, like, I mean, obviously the last few years have been pretty decent. Obviously the Christian Yelich trade at this point is just a heist, because as far as I know, the centerpiece of that trade was Lewis Brinson, and Lewis Brinson is basically a bust in Miami. He was supposed to be their center fielder of the future, and it looks like he hasn't panned out. So they made the Yelich trade was really good. I think what I will say is, like, obviously are we the smallest market team or second smallest market team? Kansas City smaller maybe, but at any rate, like I will say that the Brewers owner, Mark Atanasio, I think he cares. So that's actually a good thing. I think he likes baseball and he cares about the team's success. So it's not like the Marlins owner. What's that guy's name? Not Derek Jeter, the real owner of the Marlins.
Right.
Everyone's like Derek Jeter. Well, no, he doesn't. He owns a 4% stake in the team, right? But Mark Atanasio, I think he cares about the Brewers. He cares about their success and the fans. Like, I know, way back when CC Sabathia, when we rented him, and Sabathia like put the Brewers on his back during his rental period. Had like a sub-2 ERA, pitched every 3 days. Went like 9-1 or something, just like single-handedly took the Brewers to the postseason, basically. And so we made like a good faith offer to him in free agency, right? Obviously, it wasn't going to happen. I think it was like 5 years, $100 million or something. Like, but the point is, like, Atanasio, like he doesn't want to just like get rid of the talent or like I think so. I think for what we are. I guess I can't really ask for much more because obviously there's going to be some constraints, financial constraints, but I think the owner cares.
Tony, that's your team's an example we use here in Pittsburgh all the time. We're like, how can the Brewers do this and we can't? Like you said,
right.
You're the second smallest.
Absolutely.
Team. Your owner cares. Our owner owns a bunch of newspapers and a ski resort here in Western Pennsylvania. And, I get it. He's a businessman. I own my own business. I understand that. But, you've got to put a product out there once in a while. And that's why, like, we use your team as an example. It's like, look at these guys. They at least try.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting us to be the Yankees or Dodgers, but just, a bunch of guys we never even heard of.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that I don't know if you all. I always try to trick myself. I don't know if you all ever noticed this, but if you watch in the spring training, just the win-loss records, usually teams that are like losing games left and right are the ones that end up doing really well because they're trying out lots of different things. They're really trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, because they really got some decisions they got to make. You know what I'm saying? And then the teams that, like, you don't think are going to be worth anything in the real season, they end up just, like, crushing, like the Dodgers or, like, the Atlanta Braves or the Yankees. And then you're like, wow, really Kansas City or the Pirates or the Marlins are just, like, killing it. But it's like they're probably playing their best players right now because they got to get ready, because they're already behind the 8 ball. So, like today I looked at the standings and the Reds are last in the division for us. They're like 5-12. So I'm like, I think the Reds are set up, I put in quotes here, for a decent season that actually may result in a playoff berth, because they're having some hard decisions in the next 2 weeks with some of their like infielders, with their pitching staff, right now with their closers and stuff like that. So do you all ever notice anything like that do you ever pay attention to that? Where a lot of times the standings are completely like lopsided who you think is going to actually do well in the regular season, but during the preseason it's like, how is whoever, Texas Rangers #1 right now? I always find that interesting because 3 weeks into the season the Rangers are already like 8 games out, or whatever.
So I mean, in terms of the standings, absolutely not. I mean, you look at individual players and see how they're doing, right? The standings mean, absolutely nothing. I think a good example I can think of is a football example. I remember the year that the Detroit Lions went 0-16. They went 4-0 in the preseason. And so that for me is always just like never look at the preseason standings. They don't mean anything, but you do look at preseason, just individual players is I think what you want to look at. The standings don't really mean much.
Right. And you even talked about, you and I kind of have like a side conversation going throughout the week, talking about like Shohei Ohtani and how he's been doing pretty well, and hoping that actually, this translates into a season, that he's doing really well. Like he ended up taking Michael Lorenzen, who also is a 2-way player, deep, 2 home runs, I think, this past week off of him, which is pretty good to see, that he's swinging the bat, he's making some contact, he's actually looks to be healthy. So, I mean, I'm glad to see that just as an Ohtani fan, because I know everybody else is already kind of like they do with Christian Yelich, Tony. Like they have one down season. I know Ohtani's had kind of like 2 if you really think about it. And they're already like wrote them off like, oh, well, they're done. They're over. And I'm like, these guys are like in their late 20s, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. I mean, it's not like, it's not like they're 37, and this is their last hoorah. So I'm always surprised at how many people are, real fickle about some of these guys that have a proven track record of being pretty good. Like they put.
Excuse my ignorance, because I don't watch the Angels much.
No.
So he's not pitching. Is he a DH or does he play in the outfield, or what does he do because he hits?
But he also pitches. Yeah, he's doing both. I think he's doing both this year too, right?
But he's
going
to
try to do both.
Position player when he's not pitching.
No, he's going to DH when he's not pitching. Yeah,
that makes sense.
So But I always think about and this is again maybe more about the card market than the actual like baseball fans or whatnot. If you think about it, because they will send these guys like Otani and Yelich and fill in the blank guy that had a down year. They put them on the boat and send them out down the river to die or whatever. But then the guy that hasn't even stepped 1 foot onto the diamond, they like think that he's the best thing ever, and they're spending like thousands of dollars on their stuff. But Christian Yelich had a down season because of everything going on with the world, or Otani's coming back from injury. They're like they're washed up, they're done. I guess I still don't understand that mindset that you got a guy that hasn't even stepped foot on the diamond or had like one good month when they brought him up in September. And then they're like, this guy's the best thing ever. But you have a guy who's a proven track record, one down year, and they're like, this guy sucks.
Especially after last year. I mean, that's not a real sample with those guys. That could have been a slump. I mean, it just wasn't long enough.
Sure.
To say, oh, that was a bad year for him. I'm like, really, guys? They didn't even know if they were going to be playing.
Some of these guys, they played like 40 games.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a quarter of a season.
Right. I mean, a lot of these guys were sitting on their couch eating probably potato chips, and then they got the call. We're like, hey, we're starting tomorrow, guys. We need you in here. They're like, oh, okay.
Us doing that. Guys are working out.
Right. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, that's what I've been saying for years. But
Jason, I wanted to make sure you saw that pulled. Have you seen this yet? Wait, there's my camera.
Oh, nice. Who is that though?
That's your band, Ichiro.
Oh, Ichiro. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can't figure out how to get this on here right. All I see is this little box. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
That card actually looks cool. Like, I usually don't like the manufactured relic cards, but that actually looks pretty neat. I actually like the 70-year thingy they got going on the cards this year. I think it looks sharp.
This is cool, but I opened 2 of these. And the other one, I showed this on a video the other day, was an Eddie Matthews. And this patch, I don't know, can you see it? Was all crooked. And I'm like, are you serious? In 2021, you can't get this right?
It's like an international space station exists, but Topps can't.
So
that's a PSA 6 on that card.
Yeah, that's a PSA 6.
So actually, I don't know if you saw my video, but I was reading on either Net54 or one of those forums that, do you have Barnes and Nobles out your way? Bookstore?
Me?
Well, maybe not in Japan.
No, but in Wisconsin they have.
Okay. They have cards. And I went in there yesterday, and I'm looking behind the counter because I figured, Target, Walmart, that's where they are. And I'm just walking around. I'm in the toy section, and then I find the board games, and I look, and there's like 12 boxes, brand new cards, the Top Series 1. There's a bunch of hangers. And, I don't think the flippers and all those guys know about it yet. So that might be an option for you guys if you can't find cards. Well,
there you go, Don. You just ruined it for all of us. That was a private conversation.
Now.
How many people are on here? 3 of us. So
enough. Well, I'm gonna leave it up. I'm gonna have to take it down now. I'm gonna delete this video like it never happened.
I know you're gonna run out now.
I'm like all of a sudden I'm like out the door like that.
It's interesting because that Barnes and Noble has cards, because I remember Borders books.
Yeah.
When that was still around, it used to have cards, and I remember because I used to go to Borders books when I was a kid to get Pokemon cards. And I remember buying the original, OG first Pokemon series that's insanely expensive now. And I remember ripping the foil packs that go for $500 for one of them now. So I can't tell you how many of those I ripped. If I had saved all the ones I ripped, I would have had a lot of money. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, because Borders books, but they went bankrupt. But they used to have cards. I remember Magic, Pokemon, I think sports too. Behind the counter though, so it was kind of like now.
Well, I always find it interesting, when I heard people start saying Walgreens have exclusive, cards now, and I'm like, Walgreens? I never even knew that they even had cards. It was even an option, And I'll hear, and so sometimes I'm always surprised that people will be like CVS and Walgreens. I'm like, really? I would never thought in a million years I'm going to walk into a drugstore, unless it was 1988, and find baseball cards.
Right.
So I was like, so it was surprising to hear that apparently that's a thing now. And I'm like, wow, I would never thought to look for that, but so it doesn't surprise me that, quite frankly, but think about it, maybe the word's out, the word's on the street at this point. Baseball cards are selling like hotcakes. So why wouldn't Barnes and Noble not have them in there? You know what I'm saying? It's like, as soon as if you didn't buy them all, Don, somebody else is going to be behind you probably buying them all. That's just the way it is right now. So Barnes and Noble, just like anybody else, will sell them and make some money.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said I didn't buy them all, but they didn't have a limit either.
Right.
They didn't stop me from buying any.
Yeah, they will after they see you load up your cart, though. They're like, who's this guy buying 18 boxes? This jag-off.
Jag-off. What are you talking about? Well, I don't know, our Walmarts and our Targets now, everything's behind the customer service. So I went into Target a couple weeks ago, and they had what's the Topps cards that look like the vintage cards? I don't know, my mom.
Heritage.
They had two boxes there, and I said, I'll take two. And so she's about to ring them up. She goes, these are $140 a piece, right? I was like, what? $140? I was like, never mind. I'm like, I was just getting them for fun, to break something. I was like, $140.
I think they might have been hobby boxes, because I remember seeing a post online, like, have you guys ever seen a hobby box at Target? And someone saw hobby boxes at Target, which I thought was just the point of hobby boxes. You can't get them at Target, but
right.
So that's probably why they were 140.
I guess, because I'm a
vintage
collector. I was excited to see them. Like, it's always fun just to open some stuff.
Yep.
Like not for $140.
No, I don't care what it is. Unless I'm opening up 1975 Topps, I'm not getting $180 for it or whatever. So that's crazy, man. That is nuts. So what about? I was going to ask you, Tony, with the last time you and I spoke on here, you had said you hadn't really made it out a lot to check out some of your local car shop or whatnot. Have you went out in the last couple of weeks and popped over and picked up anything in the last month or so, I guess?
Yeah, I think my last video that I made for my channel kind of went through some of my pickups. I had a little bit of a Juan Soto heist where they had I guess my LCS had a bunch of these boxes. I think they took out a bunch of stuff that they hadn't had out in a while or something. And I got his Prism Refractor Rookie Cup card, the horizontal one, for $5 or something, which I think is pretty cheap for what that is. And I got I said on the video, I got the best Donaldo Mendez rookie card that money can buy, and it's the one where he's with Pujols. It's a Fleer rookie with Pujols. There's an Ichiro one too where he's with a nobody. It's the same series. And so I think that was $15 or something. I was like, come on, numbered Pujols rookie for $15. I'll take that all day. But then besides that, I did get this card. I got a couple Otanis that I didn't show. This is from, can't see it that well, but this is from 2013. So it is his Japanese rookie season. And this is a BBM. So this is from his rookie season. I don't think it's not a rookie card. It doesn't say rookie. Well, I guess it could be a rookie card. And then I got this cool a Mosaic Otani. And this is a Panini card, but I love the Mosaic cards. And I've come around. I don't get bent out of shape about Panini not having logos on them, because I think a competition or with Topps is good, and I think that Panini makes really nice cards. So this is from the 2020 Chronicles, but Mosaic. I think these are great pickups. The 2020 Chronicles Mosaic baseball cards. they're pretty rare because they came in Chronicles, right? So they didn't make like a bunch of product of only it. So I think if you get the refractors of like Trout, Tatis, Soto, the stuff, like I think it's really good pickups because you can get them for a few bucks, like
Yeah.
maybe the Trout will be like $15 or something. But yeah, I think these are cool. I think this was like $5. So
yeah. Well, that's my secret. You're onto my secret because that's how I do my buying a lot, especially with some of the bigger names. I'll go after the Panini product because those cards look so beautiful. You can get some really awesome colors. You get some really cool numbered cards, like next for nothing. And again, will those ever be the same level of interest or cost wise in the future as Top? Probably not. But quite frankly, I'm not that impressed with half the products from Topps anymore. Like I feel like they just rehash the same card look from year to year. They'll take a vintage year, and then they make a bajillion of those cards of like 1985, and just put them in all the products, and they just do it's like this lazy, lazy designs where I feel like Panini is at least attempting to try to think outside the box. Sure, they'll do a throwback one as well, but I don't feel like they run it into the ground like Topps does.
I totally agree about the rehashing of the designs, and I like Heritage. Like, I think Heritage should be the product that does that, right?
Yeah, just the one.
Just Heritage, right? Like, but when you got like, oh, here's a like 70 years of time, how many freaking cards of the like 52 design are you gonna do, right? Like, yeah, it's a great design, it's a classic, but like, at a certain point, it's kind of just becomes cheap if you keep doing it. And yeah, to answer KBO, it was the Fleer tradition, the numbered one, and that's awesome that you lucked into a numbered one for $1 last year.
George, you lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, those two boxes I opened to the Series 1, I think there was 3 different years. There was 52, 78, and maybe 85 or 86. I mean, they look cool, but I see what you're saying. And I'm like, I didn't even open that much, and I got 3 different years.
What's the point of archives? Like, it's just... The first problem is like it has no identity because there's 3 different years in it. It's like they take Heritage but just throw 3 different past designs into it. So you can't be like, oh yeah, like Heritage you could be like, oh yeah, that's probably the 2018 Heritage because it's the 69 design or whatever. Sure. But with archives, it's like, well, you can't be like, oh yeah, that's like 2015 archives because you don't know because there's 3 different. It has no identity. It's like just Heritage but not as good. I don't even know what the point is, but I mean, other than this.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. But with my very limited knowledge, and just bear with me as I try to work through this. You have archives that has 3 different past designs. Yeah. You have Heritage, who's based on a whole different design from a previous year. Then Topps, the flagship, picks 1 year, and then has like last year was 1985. And then throughout all their products, 85 designs are all over the product with modern day players, with vintage players, with chase players. So 85 designs show up everywhere. Then you have Chrome or Top or Stadium Club, who does Topps finest designs on all their products. And then Bowman does Bowman Chrome, and they do all previous designs from the previous years. And then you have all their like online specials, like the Topps Living set from like 1952. Then you have all their like other like online exclusives that'll take designs from previous years and put them in there. And I'm like, and that's just me with my limited knowledge with that. But I mean, that's like every year that's what they're doing. So like it's rare that I see a card or a subset or a product release from Topps, and I'm like, wow. That's a good-looking card.
What do you think of the Project 70 cards?
The thing is, to me, like, I don't know. Like, I kind of like what everybody else was doing last year with the whole Topps 2020, like the artist renditions of cards, you know, and I think it's cool, but I feel like it's just like a gimmick, you
Yeah,
know.
like I hated
And I feel like it's a money grab a lot
It
for
is.
us collectors. I mean, there might be some cool designs. There may be some cool, like, you know, iterations of players or cards. But I feel like it's just another way to get more money out of us. And then, like, you know, and then of course, if you're trying to chase like if I'm a Madden League guy or an Ichiro guy or whatever, you know, and it just ends up being like this thing where you're like having to try to get them all or spend extra money and all. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I do like top 70 better. I will say that. I think
I
it's a
do
better
too.
looking card. And I think it's a better looking product from the idea from 2020 Topps Project or whatever. But I feel like we've opened the Pandora's box with Topps now that doing these like artist renditions of past years cards again, kind of again taking the same horse and then beating it, and we're doing a different year from it. I mean, what is your all's takes on it? What do you all feel?
Why I brought it up, I did not like Project 2020 at all. I have one card that I bought.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a roll up.
Clemente that I thought looked really cool. But, you know, I like what I consider maybe not vintage art, but art that looks sort of like a card or a great painting versus like the ones that are out with the one eyeball. And it's just not my thing. So I did buy the Hank Aaron this year. And I'm a big Stan Musial fan. And so that one and another one. So I'm kind of like, I'm sort of getting suckered in a little bit. I don't want all of these cards. And then I'm
Sure.
like, well, this is also taking money away from what I really love is my vintage cards.
Right.
So, you know, I'm like, I agree. It's a total money grab, and they're going to keep doing it. There'll be project something else next year if this does well.
Well, I mean, I said this in a previous video. This is very frustrating. When I forgot what, I don't know if I heard it. I think I heard it on again Bench Clear that Mike was talking to Jameson, somebody or something. Jameson, one of the artists. I you know, forgive me, I can't remember his name. Blake Jameson, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, Topps signed a contract to have Snoop Dogg design some Topps cards," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like the same guy that's in the freaking commercials with Martha Stewart planting like bushes, and you know, I'm like, you know, seriously, like, you know, you know, this is my problem with Topps is that they are getting too big for their britches, in my opinion. Like they're just like throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. You know, they're doing all these like
they've been in the name in the hobby for years, so they're like,
I know, and
they're resting on their laurels, you know, like, well,
yeah.
Good way to put it.
I mean, it's very frustrating because again, you know, and I know it's gonna sound like this. I'm the old guy that's in the church. It's like that. I've been in that pew for the last 30 years. Why are those young people sitting in my pew? Like I understand, but it's like you're getting people involved in the hobby who don't even care about the hobby. They just care about chasing what they perceive as expensive or rare cards that they can try to make money and flip on.
I couldn't,
you know,
even
and
tell
they're
you
like
who the artist was.
they're pricing everybody else out. You know, and their focus is now that stuff instead of actually making quality product that we all can enjoy. Their focus is let's find rappers now that can do baseball cards, or let's find this like underground New York graffiti artist that like, you know, spray paints, you know, dicks or whatever on the side of the subway things, and he has to be a great artist for Topps. Let's bring him on here now.
Is that I don't get Jason?
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
What artist you're collecting?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of graffiti dicks on the sides of buildings. That's a huge side piece. Yeah, I have.
Like Banksy's lesser known brothers, dude.
That's my new thing.
I do think like, so talking about like Snoop Dogg making cards or what, you know, I think like there was this discussion kind of back when Project 2020 started. I will say like 70, I think the cards themselves are better maybe, but like Topps, they're cheapening it by doing it again, right? Like Project 2020, it was a novel idea. Like, it wasn't for me, but I didn't like hate it, right? Like, I was like, well, this is kind of a cool idea. And I also thought, like, you have guys like Ben Baller or Snoop Dogg or whatever out here making cards. Like, my opinion back then was that, like, I think that's actually good for baseball. Maybe not the hobby. So there's a difference. Like, I don't know if it's good for the hobby. Like, I don't know if Steve Aoki cards are good for, like, we worry you're putting out all this product, it just makes it cheap. Like, Steve Aoki cards, what? Like, I don't know if it's good for the hobby or not, but I do think it's good for baseball. Like, I think baseball needs it's the best sport ever, and it's for everyone. Like, if Snoop Dogg cards can get some kid who's into like Instagram and following celebrities like into baseball, like, I think that's awesome. I don't necessarily think that like the Snoop Dogg cards are like good for the hobby. Like, I don't know if the market having like, maybe like if they're cool, like maybe. But I think like that baseball kind of needs, I think, a sort of injection of that kind of thing. I think there's an air of sort of bogeyism that pervades baseball that I don't like. And I think that kind of thing, actually, I said before, if Ben Baller was on Instagram, he's like, I will pay whoever has this baseball card like $8,000 cash money or whatever. Like, if you've got a guy that has 1 million followers and a lot of them are young people, and he's talking about, I'm going to pay money for this baseball card, like, if there's a way that you can kind of like get the attention of people who aren't necessarily, if you could get them into it, that would be great. But there's a caveat. I think like my ideal would be some kid on Instagram notices that and gets into baseball and actually becomes a fan or becomes a collector. That would be awesome. What I don't want is to be like, wow, Ben Baller's really balling, so I'm going to start flipping cards. And like that I think is bad. But, maybe there's going to be a bit of both. But hopefully, you get some new people into baseball at least,
Yeah, that's a good point, Tony. And I like what George said. I said I didn't like the cards with the one eye, and he loves them. That's what's so awesome about this hobby is that you collect what you like. Just because I don't like it and you do, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. And then at the end of the day, guys, it's cards. I'm kind of like, who cares how much Top splits out?
Yeah.
If I don't like it, then don't buy it. And I'm part of the old fogey. I'm 54 years old. I remember, Dennis Eckersley's rookie card is in 1976, and that's it. Now there's 30 of them, and it's like, it's not my thing, but it doesn't mean it's bad. But I really like what you said, Tony. If it brings a kid into the game, that's awesome. It really is. But and what George said, that's collect what you like. Everybody says that, but it's so true. We definitely cards $1 or $1,000. Like, if you like it.
What we can't do is like gatekeep the hobby, right? Like, well, only true fans, or we can't gatekeep the hobby where we say these people can't be in here, or what I mean, blah blah blah, right? It can be for everyone, at least in theory, right? Like,
right.
So
let me ask you all this, because I think this could be a double-edged sword. It could be a touchy subject. So I want to know what your thoughts are, because I see what you're saying about trying to bring young people into the hobby or just new eyes onto the hobby, and there could be a lot of benefit for that. Obviously, you want to see them stay. You want to see them like become a part of the hobby, and not just like not like a stockbroker of the hobby, like just trying to buy and sell and all that. I get it. So to kind of flip that on its ear, what about the idea of trying to, like you're saying, Tony, I think what you're saying is if it gets more people, like having Snoop Dogg or Ben Baller or whoever, fill in the blank guy, like Steve Aoki or whatever, get those people in, and then their followers in, but then also them to get into the game of baseball itself, because the ongoing comments, the ongoing thread throughout the last decade or two is that young people don't watch baseball. They don't like baseball. It's boring. It's slow. They need to do all these changes. They need to make it relevant. Now, my problem with that is because if you mean you want to make it relevant, like the NBA, the NFL, where it turns out to be a circus and it ends up being like a clown show because it turns into everybody's politics and their social justice things. I don't want baseball to go that direction. Baseball's kind of been, for the most part, immune to that. I mean, there's been a little bit of this past year, you see that. But if that means to make baseball relevant to young people, I quite frankly want to keep that stuff off the field. Like, I don't care what people do on their own private time, but if you like notice the NFL and the NBA, their ratings are in the literal toilet now compared to years past. And it's like baseball already has that problem without making it quote unquote relevant for the young people. So do you see it being a double-edged sword by you're saying like you're bringing all these new eyes on there because you're trying to bring people into the sport and have them like put baseball on the map to maybe that under 35 crowd, the under 30 crowd, the 18 crowd, but then you bring those people in and they bring their own views of what sports should be, and it turns into this like cluster of baseball, and like they're trying to appeal to now everybody when it's impossible to appeal to everybody because you can't never make everybody happy. I know that's a loaded question, but what's your all's thoughts of that? Maybe you don't feel the same way, that's fine, but I struggle with that, quite frankly.
I mean, I'm not going to get political here. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of that stuff that goes on in sports. And maybe that's just, from the era that I grew up in. And I don't know if that would, I honestly don't know. I don't know if the young crowd would bring that in or not. I mean, I guess to a point they would. I have two twin girls that are 19 years old, and I'm like, someday you'll get it, that you're not making any sense right now. You know what you're saying, but it's their mentality. And that is one of the nice things about baseball is the game has stayed the same for the most part over hundreds of years, and it hasn't been very disruptive. And and sometimes I wonder too if baseball has been immune to it because there's so many players from other countries. I mean, maybe you could say that about hockey, and I know basketball's starting to get that, but baseball, I don't know the percentages of players from other countries that maybe their philosophy is different. They're just so thankful to be in America and be free, and
I'm sure that's a good point.
So, yeah.
What about you, Tony?
Well, okay. Again, me personally also not wanting to get super political here, but I understand if you want to keep politics and social issues and things like that out of the sports. I think for many people, right, those things are kind of an escape from everyday life and those kinds of things. So I understand when people want to maybe sort of not want that kind of thing injected into the sports. I do understand that. I guess another thing though, like at the same time, I don't agree when people say that athletes, for example, there was the LeBron thing, like shut up and dribble. I don't agree with that at all. These guys are human beings. They're entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to use a platform to speak their mind. LeBron, he's an American. He can say anything he wants. That's his right. These guys, they're not trained circus seals to like clap for us when we want, right? While I do understand not wanting, and me too, personally not necessarily wanting the politics and the social issues kind of coming into sports and stuff. For me, I'd like sports to be sports, and different forums used to discuss those other things. But at the same time, I do think athletes. I am not a proponent of shut up and dribble, shut up and swing. I think that athletes are human beings, and that they should be able to speak their mind. Whatever their views are.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, when I hear that, they're trying to get young people into the MLB, I'm saying, to watch it, the more young eyes onto the sport, if my thinking is, if you can enjoy the sport for what it is, you know what I'm saying? That's what I want to see happen, because of course, my son's a perfect example. He loves the game of baseball. He could care less about watching it. And I think probably if you pay any attention to young people in general, they have no interest in baseball to watch it, even going to a game, which is a lot more fun. I think we all can agree watching a game on TV definitely has its boring moments, and there's a lot of downtime or whatever. But going to a game is fun. But for young people, that's still not of interest. And so to try to get more young people to watch the game, I think you definitely want to try to make some sort of overtures to get more people into it and watch it for sure. Because that's why my son knows all kinds of basketball players' names and football players' names, even if he doesn't really watch the sports that much, because he watched the highlights reels. Whoa. And they're all into the hits or the threes or the breaking their ankles and all this kind of stuff. They don't have that same connection with baseball.
Well, I think I've thought about this, and I feel like the narrative is kind of like baseball's a boomer sport, football's for everyone, and then basketball's for young people. Well, I mean, here's the thing: do young people we're talking Gen Z? Teenagers, maybe 22 at the oldest, Gen Z kids. Do Gen Z kids really like basketball, or do they like sneakers and Instagram? Because I don't know how many Gen Z kids are out there following basketball in March. Are these kids really following a team, following the league, or do they like sneakers and following celebrities on Instagram?
I've got a 15-year-old son, and he plays basketball, and it's the only sport he plays now. He loves basketball.
Yeah.
We don't have an NBA team here in Pittsburgh. Cleveland's the closest NBA team to us. And I remember a couple Christmases ago, I bought him tickets to go to a game, and it was the best gift I had ever given him. He was just starstruck. And when LeBron left Cleveland, I said, "Oh, you're probably not a Cavaliers fan anymore." He's like, "Why would I not be a Cavaliers fan?" I thought it was for LeBron. So there may be some truth to what you're saying, but in his case,
oh yeah, I'm not saying there aren't young people who are into basketball, of course, right? I'm just saying, I think a lot of these people, for a lot of kids, obviously there are real fans like your son. Obviously, he loves basketball, and that's the same for every sport. But I think you have a large percentage of people, younger people, who might.
You know where they find the players is their video games. Madden. That's how they know the football players. MLB.
True.
It's he knows these guys. I'm like, well, I love Penn State football, and I tried brainwashing him when he was little, Penn State football. You want to watch the game with me? Nah. Or what he does, he'll have the game on Hulu on his phone while he's sitting there playing, watching the game and playing. I'm like, whatever.
Here's what I think is one problem with baseball and why it's tough to have it resonate. Take a sport. So let's talk about the younger kids or people in general who really do like basketball, right? Or really do like football. Sorry, I got to go get the door. So hold that thought. But
all right, we're hanging here.
I know we got to start showing cards like Mangini's. They're pulling everything out.
I know to start showing cards.
I know.
Oh man, so you go ahead and show some cards. You have some bangers.
I got one back today.
Oh no!
Yeah, and it's Roberto Clemente, so that sucks. But
altered.
I got a couple that I got back. Everyone's talking about grading. I sent these cards in on March 1st, SGC, and got them back today. 3 weeks.
Wow.
So there's a Duke Snyder.
Nice.
Man.
Yeah. A couple Dodgers here.
Campy.
Campano. Campy.
Yeah. pulled this one out of a box.
Awesome.
Wow.
And this was my big win.
Oh, whoa!
This one scared me.
jelly.
I bought it on Facebook.
Dang!
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, "Oh, I hope this is real." Tony, you missed it, so I pulled one of these. And this so is actually,
you know, I like the 56 Clemente better than the 55 Clemente.
I do too.
I love the background where he's jumping and stuff.
Yeah.
So before I got the door, what I was saying is, like, I think a problem with baseball is that unlike football, okay, so in basketball, one guy, if you have a LeBron or you have a Michael Jordan, one guy can carry your team and become just an icon, a superstar, right? Same with football. If your quarterback is Tom Brady, he can carry your team, right? But baseball, you have a transcendent player like Mike Trout. Mike Trout can't carry the Angels. It's impossible. He could be the best. He is the best baseball player on planet Earth. But if you don't have pitching, if you don't have, this, that, and the other thing. So with baseball, I think the guys, it's very hard for them to kind of just be elevated to that status where, they're like just a superstar, right? Because they can't carry their team. They can't be Jordan. They can't be Brady. It's impossible.
Yeah, on YouTube, there's a documentary on Ken Griffey Jr., and I don't know if you guys seen it. And they were interviewing LeBron James. And
I saw it. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah,
he's like, he's the first player that made baseball cool. Like, I wanted to go do it because he was a hip guy, had his hat on backwards. He was different. Yeah. They could relate to him. He was the first guy to have his own shoe, I think, in baseball from Nike.
The Griffey Air Max or whatever. I remember I wanted them as a kid or whatever. Griffey had his own sneaker, which was rare for baseball. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they look at these guys as like, wow, this is really cool. They're like, this is boring. I mean, that's why my kid quit playing baseball. He's like, I'm so bored, Dad, out there. I'm like,
yeah. I just think that they have to do a better job. I know some of you all see the comments, but Eddie and George are saying basically they have a real big problem with marketing. With MLB has a problem with marketing and having to be able to get the message out there. And I think the problem is you might have like people like a Mike Trout, but then either because that's just who they are as a person or who they felt like they needed to be, they're not a very personality that brings a lot of people of interest to you because they're pretty like low key people. They don't show a lot of emotion. They look like they don't even care, even though we know they do care. Obviously, they don't get like pumped up. It's very rare you see some of these guys, even some of the big superstars, show that much emotion on the field. And this is a conversation we've all had before. We've heard that if you are a player like a Juan Soto or whatever, and you show emotion, and then it looks like you're upstaging or making the other team look bad, you got to go make an issue an apology that night to say you're sorry you made the other team look bad. It's like you never hear about the NFL or the NBA ever saying, one of their players had to go and apologize because they
apologized for hitting a grand slam home run.
Right. Can you imagine LeBron James being told to go out in front of the cameras and apologize slam dunking on the Cavaliers because they're up by 35?
You posterize this fool. You better apologize now.
Right, exactly. You're beating them by 35 with the last minute on the game and you slam dunk. Like, who does that? Like, no one cares. But and then the other thing is that if I'm pitching to Tony and Tony jacks one on me and he like takes a little glance at it as it looks over the fence and he just kind of like trots down the thing, and then I feel like he's showboating. The next time he's up, I'm going to try to hit him with a baseball. It's like, that's like where we're at right now. And it's like you shouldn't have to do that. If they're being excessive, sure, whatever, kind of like in hockey, you can like take it. But if it's just a part of the game, you're quelling people's excitement because I know I don't want to get hit in the head with the baseball. I don't want to get hit in the back. I don't want to get hit in the chest or whatever. because that's gonna hurt. Having a guy throwing 95 at me, I don't think it's gonna be fun. So, you have people probably who just scared to do any kind of real celebrating because either you're gonna get hit the next time up, or you're gonna have to issue an apology.
I hope Juan Soto's doing the Soto shuffle when he's 40. I hope he's still playing. I hope he's doing the Soto shuffle when he's 40. I hope he cranks it up too. I hope he exaggerates even more.
Could you imagine the guy
pitcher all pissed off and
plate, he spikes his helmet like a football or something after a touchdown, or gets a home plate, starts doing some dance or
right. Yeah, I mean, I just think there's so many opportunities for baseball to make it a little bit more entertaining, to let the guys have some personality, let them be excited, let them show some emotion. That some of those little things translate that over all the baseball teams and all the players who truly want to be that way. I don't want anybody faking it. Just be themselves. Yeah. And how many people would be more interested? How many more highlight reels would be on YouTube and like on MLB.com and on ESPN if you see that much of emotion and that much excitement, or that much, even if it was like frustration, or like, remember Carlos Zambrano? Every time he would be pitching,
yeah.
he tried to kill somebody up on the mound.
Yeah, he was scary. I remember
all this stuff.
Carlos Zambrano was scary.
Right. But guess what? We all remember Carlos Zambrano because of how emotional he was. It wasn't that he was the best pitcher in the world. It's because he cared, And that's the thing, is that, we don't have a lot of guys like Zambrano out there because it looks like they don't care, And so why do I care if you don't care?
I mean, there's a lot of guys like that. We wouldn't even remember them if they were a regular pitcher. Al Hrabosky, the Mad Hungarian, Bill Spaceman Lee. If they were just pitching, we wouldn't even we'd be like, who was that guy? But you remember him because he was unique and he was passionate.
Yeah, I mean, I think like on another stream, I think it was Mark Stoff we were talking about a similar thing, and how, Mike Trout, he's kind of a milquetoast, and if he were more, if he wasn't just such a regular guy, right, baseball would probably be doing a little better. But at the same, it's like Mike Trout is Mike Trout. He's just a regular guy. He's just himself. And it's a shame to me that he's like that normal. Like if he was a little more, but like at the same time, like you can't fake it, right? Like I think that's what Mark said. Like you can't fake it. What would be worse than Mike Trout just going out there and being kind of just a regular dude, bro, would be if he tried to like fake bravado, or he tried that would be really corny and really bad, right? So just be yourself. But the game, we need the heroes, we need the villains. We talked about Manny Machado, being good for baseball.
Right, that's true.
If he goes out there mean mugging and he gets the crowd all like, hate Manny. If you can love to hate Manny Machado, which I do.
Yes,
because he was putting that playoff game with the Brewers. He was putting his spikes up, and but I like to hate Manny Machado. So, and I don't hate Manny Machado, obviously, like as a person. I just if he's playing, I like to root against him. Although I'm really rooting for the Padres this year if the Brewers can't do anything. So. A lot of guys I like on that team, Darvish, Tatis, etc. But anyway, so I mean, I think baseball, and Jason, we were talking about the Yankees, right? Like, well, I said I don't hate the Yankees, but a lot of people do hate the Yankees, and that's good. Like, you need it can't just be everybody out there going, aw shucks, and gee willikers, ma'am. I just want to help my team win, like.
Right. No, I think I do agree. Like, but unfortunately, we only have like these like little microcosms of that in baseball. Whereas, it could be so much more if the players were allowed to be a little bit more themselves. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to turn into some, like we talked about earlier. I don't want to turn into some clown show where it ends up being more about the player than about the game. I think we all would agree that would be dangerous because then it turns into a soap opera or something. So we don't want it to go that far to the one side. But there's nothing wrong with having the players, show like they, give a crap, on the field, like have a little bit of emotion or whatever. Like when Don was first talking about, his Pirates, it's like, why would they not? Like one of the biggest things they could do right now is have those guys, because there's not really any names on that team, not that I'm aware of, no like real big names. Like if those guys came out there and just like didn't give a care and like had a good time or just making the best of probably a terrible situation, like how much more interest people would show in them. You know what I'm saying? Like how much more interest would people come to the ball field, check them out online or whatever. If they're just having a good time and try to make the best of it, But I think those are the kind of things that people would be interested in seeing. But unfortunately, who knows what the situation is going to look like? I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. I was going to ask you, Don, are they going to open up the field at, is it PNC Park? Are they going to let people into the field this year?
Yeah, I think it just
what capacity?
So the Penguins just got moved up. I think they were 25%, and I think the Pirates, they're talking about 50% capacity right now.
Okay.
It's loosening up a little bit here. We're still not totally open. Like our restaurants are 50%, and we have to wear a mask everywhere, obviously. So, I think it holds 36,000, something like that. So, 15, 16,000, which is in some years is a lot more fans than we'd get anyways at a Pirates game. But, so it doesn't really matter.
There's gonna be a lot of Indians fans there this year.
Yeah. So 15,000 might be a big crowd. So, but how about in Cincinnati or Milwaukee? Do you guys know?
Well, last thing I heard was that Cincinnati was doing 25% at the beginning of the year, or at least that was what they're going to do for spring training, and then they were going to do that at the beginning of the year. I could be wrong because, like you said, it's a fluid situation, like it is around the world, so it could go up by the time they actually have the season begin. So I'm hoping, because again, being close to Cincinnati, I'm like an hour and a half from Cincinnati. So for me, I don't care if the Reds were playing literally, I don't even care who it is. They could play some jabroni team somewhere. I don't care. I would go watch any team right now. So I want to watch baseball. So they could play like, the Cincinnati elementary school team of whatever. I'd be there to watch the game.
Right.
So I'm hoping that, they do open up to about 50%, because I think, they're, unlike maybe Pittsburgh, there's probably a lot more fans who's more apt to go to the game. Right. So there's going to be a little bit more difficulty in getting tickets. So I definitely want to see.
On the flip side, I'd like to go see Soto or Acuna or the Padres.
Yeah.
Or the Dodgers. I remember going to see Griffey, and my son wanted to see Trout when the Angels came in. And that's the beauty. At least we have a team. No matter how bad we are, or it's like, okay, not that I'm rooting for these guys, but I can say, hey, I saw Ken Griffey Jr. play. I saw Juan Soto play. Whoever.
Oh yeah. I mean, the first time that the Yankees came to the Cincinnati Reds after like 60 years or whatever was like in 2005, and I don't know if they've been back since. Quite honestly, I went there because I wanted to see Derek Jeter, Hideki Matsui, was his rookie season. Mariano Rivera. I mean, I was so pumped, and I'm a Reds fan. I do like the Yankees too, but I wasn't there to see the Reds that day. I was there to see the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely understand. So what about Tony? And is Japan going to be able to, like, the teams there open up? I mean, they're letting people into the stadiums and things. Because I know in Japan there's a lot more closed stadiums, like domes and things. So I didn't know.
Yeah, they I think, at the very least, they're going to have limited capacity or spaced out, because they started doing that halfway through the season last year, I want to say.
Right, okay.
They started with no spectators, and then they moved to limited spectators spaced out or whatever. So I think it's going to be that way this year. Maybe not 100%, probably not 100%. But yeah, I think they will be doing that. And as far as Miller Park's concerned, or I guess it's not Miller Park anymore. It's something American Family Insurance.
Gosh.
That's the one thing I hate about baseball.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely as Miller Park does.
Yeah.
So Miller Park, they're probably gonna have those T-shirts now, because I remember I've seen T-shirts where it says like I still call it Comiskey,
Right.
I still call it Miller.
Right.
So anyway, the Brewers Stadium. I don't know what's going on with that, and if they're gonna start with no spectators, or if they're gonna but
probably. So what about, are you gonna go to the Olympics then? Because I heard that they're not letting foreigners in this year to the Olympics.
Right, well, it would be
Japanese citizens there.
It would be I think, because like if I have because I have like a residence card and stuff, so like I think if I displayed like a residence card, like I might be able to get in, and maybe, unless the dude who's working is like really xenophobic or something. But I'm not sure, because I did hear that they were gonna not Japanese I guess people only, and they weren't gonna have people from abroad. And obviously, like, I kind of get that, right? Like, just in terms of like people not from a bunch of different countries coming in and then going back to their countries and stuff. But I don't think I'm going to the Olympics. I mean, I know it's expensive, and I think all the tickets are sold out anyway, right? So, but it would be interesting to see, like my white ass shows up, and I wonder. Like,
you'd make TV as they escort you out of the stadium, because they're like, how did this white face get in here?
Right. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know, because like I'm not coming from abroad. I haven't left in 2 years or whatever, a year and a half. So if I wonder how that would work for foreign residents of Japan. Maybe we're gonna be allowed, but so
I was just thinking, like, that would be the perfect opportunity. I mean, of course, like you said, Japanese fans are going to be in and around the area, but you go get to see NBA basketball.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Without the hassle, without like tens of thousands of people all around, you could probably just get right off the train, go right to the stadium, pay your ticket or whatever, and go in, and you're sitting there, and you get to watch the top tier stars, or like some of them at least,
would be incredible.
That would be so awesome.
I agree, and I'm not a huge basketball guy. I like college basketball, but the NBA, I don't follow the NBA, but that would still be awesome. I would love I would love to see the big NBA stars for sure. And I mean, they're going to have baseball again this year because it's in Japan, and Japan they took baseball off the Olympic program for a while. But they're going to bring it back because it's in Japan. It's not the same deal, because the baseball is not, like all the big basketball stars come, but baseball, no. But it would still be cool, I think.
Do they this is switching gears a little bit, but do the card manufacturers, I assume there's Japanese manufacturers for the Japanese leagues of baseball cards, correct?
Yeah.
In Japan. Yeah. Is the craze as big over there, and is it as hard to get those cards, or is that?
No, it's not quite the same deal. It's not hard to get product. They don't. What they don't have is like Japanese cards. Well, I don't really collect. I collect vintage Japanese cards, but I don't really collect the modern stuff, except for a few exceptions: Ichiro, Otani, and some other. I will, but mainly I just collect 50s and 60s or earlier Japanese cards.
Okay.
But they don't have like retail products, so they don't have like, you can go to a hobby shop and get Japanese cards as like a hobby box, I guess you'd say, but you can't like go to a retail store and get like baseball cards in a retail format. Like, what they do have, which I think are cool, like a really long running brand is Calbee, which is like they're a snack food manufacturer. And periodically what they'll do is they will release potato chips, and the bags have a little pack on the back, which is so awesome to me because it's like a food issue and it's just kind of a throw. It's really neat. And now they have the Japanese national team potato chips out. I've seen them, and they come with a pack on the back, and you get 1 or 2 cards in there.
Okay.
So that's like, if you go to the supermarket, sometimes you can get baseball cards in like potato chips or which is pretty neat. But in terms of like a box of retail product, like they don't have that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Just crazy all over the place, or
it's not quite as crazy here. You don't have like flip bros flipping past
right
people, like unemployed flip bros, like just it's they who would push past a kid to get to the freaking blaster boxes, right?
The one thing I noticed when I was living in Japan, that what we see here is that, like what Tony was saying, like all the places we were talking about before, like going to Walgreens or going to, you were mentioning Barnes and Noble, like there's all these like possibly hidden stores around America that you might just see product laying around. Like in Japan, that's like literally, I've never done that. Like it never happens. I could be wrong, but unless you're going to a hobby shop of some kind, or like you said, like some kind of weird food or beverage issue thing. The only other time I've ever run into it is like they have like a recycle shops in Japan. And of course, like they have everything, like, video games, comic books, DVDs. And sometimes you'll see like ball cards and stuff there,
Like a Goodwill, that's a Japanese Goodwill or something like that.
Right, like a Japanese version of a Goodwill, but it's definitely not Goodwill prices. So, that's for sure. But what you're saying is exactly correct. But aside from those kind of things, it is. You're not gonna just like walk into the local pharmacy in Japan and be like, oh, there's product laying around. Like it's not gonna happen. And I would say if that started happening, my head would pop off. So I'd be like, what's happening right now? Because that's just not their thing. So
there's BBM and Epoch. Those are like the 2 big makers of Japanese league cards. And then Colby, but Colby doesn't release boxes or anything. They just do their chip cards and stuff like that. But those are they're all in the but the Topps products are similarly priced, right? Like they're not like, it's not the same environment, but it's not like you can't get basketball products for way cheaper here, right? Like it's the same. The boxes are whatever the absurd 2021 Donruss basketball is like $1,000 for like a regular hobby box, just like paper Donruss. Like, are you kidding me? But I saw like it's similarly priced. Like you go to these places, it's behind glass, and it's like this football box is like 80,000 yen, which is like $800. So it's partly crazy here too. Like it's definitely a worldwide phenomenon. But there's
So did you guys
something tonight?
So I don't know if you saw this, Don. I'm sure maybe Tony, you probably saw it, even heard about it. That PSA decided to open up, or Topps decided to open up an actual branch in Tokyo. Did you see that news?
No, but I'm excited to hear that. I guess if it's good news.
So that happened this past week. You can look it up. Somebody sent me the link. But Topps decided to open up a office in Tokyo, and I can only imagine that they're probably making their big, because PSA set up there now too.
Yeah. PSA is here. Yep.
And because I don't know if you all been watching, but George is in Korea, KBO Collections, and then the Chinese market is crazy because they have a huge middle class now, and then the Japanese, Tony was just saying that it's not like the Japanese are sleeping on American product. They know what they have. So Tokyo, from what I've understood, that Topps has they released a memo that said they've opened up a branch in Tokyo. I don't know if it's already been opened or they're in the process of opening up or it's in the future. But I think that says a lot about the Asian market, that it is becoming more and more like the premier market for for these products, because again, PSA is not going to go there unless there's a reason. Topps is not going to open up unless there's a reason.
Well, yeah, and I mean, with Japan in particular, it was a no-brainer. Some of these other companies should too, because Japan, there's just a culture of cards. Pokemon, right. Yu-Gi-Oh! They're just, Japan likes its cards, and so yeah, some of these other companies should probably follow suit and open a Japan office.
I wondered, but because I was wondering, like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure it's a non-issue, but obviously the Japan or the Topps has the rights to the MLB in America. But could another company open up in Japan and have the rights to those cards, like Upper Deck or Fleer or something like that, Panini? Because are those rights universal or are those just American rights?
They're universal. I mean, I think Topps has exclusive rights to the Major League license. So yeah, that would be. I mean, part of me, like, I wish, like, I kind of wish that there would be like a return to like multiple companies making baseball product or a Panini, like. But yeah, I think Topps has got it on lock for at least the foreseeable future. So
I wonder how, I mean, obviously I see Panini and Donruss, they're American companies, but you name some of those Japanese companies, what would stop them from doing it? How could that be enforced in Japan if they said, come over and stop us from making Major League cards with the logo on it?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, I think Major League Baseball obviously is, I don't know, but kind of a multinational brand, right? So,
okay.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they can't
just throwing that out there.
Yeah, like, I mean, they've got lawyers, and I'm sure they could have lawyers who go to Japan and talk to somebody, right? Like, yeah, I mean, it would be cool. Like, I don't know, like Epoch or BBM or whatever makes some Major League cards. Like, I honestly, that would be. What I do wish is, I wish Topps would do Japan. They did a London edition or whatever, a UK edition.
Yeah.
And Brits don't even like baseball. What I want to see is like Topps doing like Topps Japan edition, and all the cards are in Japanese. And like, I think that would be awesome. Like, they have all the stars, maybe an emphasis on the Japanese major leaguers. But I think that's a no-brainer to me. You got Topps out here doing all this, Project 70 UK edition. Like, why didn't make a Japan edition?
They have a UK edition?
They do have a. They did in 2020. They had a UK edition, which I'm just like, that's so random. I don't understand.
Yeah, and it was just, and the only thing is, but that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That Topps was just being lazy. It was the exact same product, but they just had like a UK emblem on there. It was just like a little circle or whatever that said like UK or British, or they had like Big Ben or something or whatever on the little logo, and it was the exact same card. So it was like opening day, but for the UK. Now they did have cool inserts that were British exclusive inserts, so that is true. But the cards themselves were essentially the same cards. I don't know if they had like all the same card, like all 372 cards or whatever. They
slapped the Union Jack on the top corner or something.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And then
I think there was like, obviously, instead of like the Independence Day parallel, they did like a UK parallel or something where stars and stripes. It was like the Union Jack or something. But
I think they should do for Japan, but with the Imperial flag.
That's the super rare.
Yeah, that's the 1940s edition.
The 1940s edition. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I'm going to go ahead and call it. We've been at it for an hour and 20 minutes. I don't want to take anybody else's time, but I appreciate it, Don. I appreciate it, Tony. Thanks for hanging out.
Hey, thanks for having me as always. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Take care.
Yeah, peace, guys.
Bye.